Good morning. We will continue with the parliamentary procedure. We have seen guillotine and other various kinds of motions. Now we will see the cut motion, etc. And it is a budgetary process. See, it comes under the enactment of budget. What are the stages of enactment of budget? As you know, number one, presentation of budget. Number two, general discussions. Number three, scrutiny by the departmentally related parliamentary standing committees. Number four, voting on demands for grants. Number five, passing of appropriation bill. Number six, passing of finance bill. So these are all the 6 stages of budget enactment. Now, we have already seen what is money bill, what is financial bill, category 1, category 2, finance bill, appropriation bill and appropriation act. We have also seen that all money bills are financial bills, but all financial bills are not money bills. Why? Because the money bill should qualify Article 110 provisions. Now coming to enactment of budget, as you know, the budget is presented only in Lok Sabha. Remember, only in Lok Sabha. It is presented by Finance Minister on 1st February of each year. Remember, there is no joint sitting, there is no joint session of both the houses. It is presented only in Lok Sabha. A copy of the budget is presented in Rajya Sabha. During the budget day, normally there is no question hour. Similarly, there is no question hour on the day of President's address. Similarly, any sitting held on holidays or when the Parliament sits for extended period. In these cases, normally there is no question hour. And however, there is no separate budget for railways. It has been amalgamated in the general budget. Now it is, previously it was dual budget, now it is single budget. The finance minister presents the general budget with her or his speech known as budget speech. And after presentation of budget, after a couple of days, the general discussion on budget will begin. This takes place in both the houses for 2 to 3 days. This is, as you know, the hangover of the past. The general discussion serves two purposes. The general discussion takes place for 2 to 3 days in either house or in both the house. Serve two purposes. There are two purposes behind it. Number one, the house can discuss the overall policy underlining the budget. Number two, it can discuss the charged expenditure. It can discuss, underline, it can discuss, it cannot vote. The government gets a foretaste. It gets a foretaste of sentiments of the house. Before, what is the sentiments of the house, you will know, you will come to know in these 2 days discussion. And remember, most importantly, no cut motion can be proposed during this discussion. Similarly, the budget cannot be submitted for vote. These two things are at last stage. And secondly, the finance minister has a right of reply at the end of discussion. At the end of discussion, the finance minister has a right of reply. Now, prior to 1993, remember, prior to 1993, there was no departmentally related parliamentary standing committees. Prior to 1993, there was no departmentally related parliamentary standing committee. No doubt 3 or 2 committees were there for agriculture, environment, etc. But there was no provision of regular the departmentally related parliamentary standing committees. And you know, the Lok Sabha is the watchdog of public finance. Without its approval, you cannot draw even a single pie from the Consolidated Fund of India. I have already told you. And the procedure to get the approval of Lok Sabha for expenditure is by passing what is popularly known as budget or what is technically known as annual financial statement. And the annual financial statement, after presentation, then the demands for grants of all the ministries are taken up. And that is prior to 1993, there were 38 departments are there. Technically, Lok Sabha was expected to scrutinize each demand for grant of each department and then pass the demands. However, as you know, 38 departments and their demands for grants. However, due to paucity of time, remember, due to paucity of time, it was not possible for the Lok Sabha to examine each demands for grants and then approve it. It is not possible. There is no time for the parliament members because they have got other duties also. So naturally, and during the discussion of demands for grant, they are supposed to move what is popularly known as cut motion and discussion on it, and then finally they should do. But what they normally do is they will choose 2 to 3 departments, and these 3 departments, the demand for grants will be discussed in detail. Cut motions will be moved only for these 3 to 4 departments, and finally, after cut motions of these departments have been discussed and demands for grants of these departments have been voted, the outstanding demands are summarily voted by what is known as guillotine. That is, all outstanding demands are put to vote without any discussion, which is known as guillotine. Yesterday or day before I told you, guillotine is a weapon used during French Revolution. So these outstanding demands are guillotined and all the demands are taken as passed. This was the procedure adopted in 1993, prior to 1993, prior to Narasimha Rao government. Now, just see the rationale of this. You are sanctioning thousands of crores of rupees. You are sanctioning thousands of crores of rupees from the Consolidated Fund of India, and you are the custodian of the fund. The basic rule is you cannot draw even a single pie for the Consolidated Fund of India without the approval of Lok Sabha. But whereas you are sanctioning thousands of crores without even seeing the demands, just to put all the outstanding demands and guillotine it. Is it not a non-democratic? I cannot call this as undemocratic. Is it not non-democratic aberration? So, what has happened is, in 1993 onwards, parliamentary standing committees, that is, departmentally related parliamentary standing committees have been introduced. Remember, at present, there are 24 committees, each committee having the jurisdiction over 3 to 4 departments. Each standing committee has 31 members, 21 from Lok Sabha and 10 from Rajya Sabha, nominated by Speaker of Lok Sabha and Chairman Rajya Sabha respectively. Remember, the chairman of 16 committees, that is, the chairpersons of 16 committees are nominated among the members by the Speaker, and 8 committees, chairpersons of the 8 committees are nominated by Chairman Rajya Sabha among the members. So, previously it was 21 committee, then it has become 24 committees. Originally 21, augmented in 2004. Okay. After the general discussion on the budget is completed, the House will go for recess 4 weeks. 1 month or 4 weeks, it will go for recess. All the demands for grants which are in the custody of Lok Sabha will be referred to the standing committee. During the recess period, the standing committee will consider all the demands for grants of the departments attached to each committee, call the secretary, call the officers, and examine each demand, and they will suggest they will take oral evidence also and experts' view also, and finally they will suggest whether there is any addition or modification or deletion are required. They will discuss. Remember, the standing committees are forbidden to suggest any cut motion. No, that is not their role. Cut motion cannot be moved. Similarly, their suggestions are only recommendatory in nature, not mandatory. And these recommendations will be made, and what is the provision, what is the actual budget provision, what is the demand for grants required, what is their suggestion. This will be tabulated, and the report of the standing committee will be finalized and submitted to the speaker. And these standing committee reports will be referred to the ministry, and the ministry will be asked to consider the recommendation of the standing committee and make necessary changes in the demands for grants. Accordingly, the department will look into this and they will suggest their response to the recommendations made by the standing committee. In addition to the demands for grants, long-term policy documents and annual reports or any other matter which the speaker wants or the chairman wants can also be referred to the standing committee, and the standing committee will examine. Standing committee is totally forbidden to take up any individual cases, or they are not they are supposed to entertain any day-to-day administration. They are not forbidden to interfere in the day-to-day administration. Now the report has come back to Lok Sabha. Now Lok Sabha members, all the members of Lok Sabha are having the standing committee report on original demands for grants. Even now, even at this stage, not more than 4 departments will be chosen. These 4 departments, they will examine the standing committee report, and the cut motions will be moved during this discussion period. So, all the members of the parliament in Lok Sabha will have the standing committee report, will have the government proposals, budgetary proposals, and they will examine, and the members will move cut motions. What is cut motions, etc., I will tell later. Now, if you analyze the standing committee provisions, there are certain, these are all only, general feeling of the experts. The committee has made in 1993, but the committee has not served the main purpose, that is examination, because of the discussions are mostly on party lines. In UK, in House of Commons, it is not on party lines. It is not on party lines. Even ruling party members will oppose the budget proposals. Whereas in India, the parliamentary standing committee meetings are and the discussions are always on party lines. If a ruling party member opposes any budget proposal, it will become a great news, because the ruling party, there is a split in the ruling party. But in House of Commons, all members are equal, no whip is issued, and even indirect or direct directions will not be given while dealing with the budgetary proposals. Whereas in India, such a thing is not there. Number one. Number two, another thing, we have plenty of committees. Committee. Why? There are 18 house committees, and in addition, new committee, 6 new committees. We have ad hoc committees, select committees, and consultative committee, 35 consultative committee, and we have 24 standing committee. And with the proliferation of committees, the committees do not have enough room to hold the meetings. Second point. Thirdly, with the introduction of standing committee, the need for consultative committee should be examined. Why? Because the consultative committee was originally formed by Pandit Nehru to enable the members of parliament to learn the working of the department. So when the persons from the village and other places who have no experience in parliament, If they are inducted as the members of parliament, so they should acquaint themselves with the procedure. So the consultative committee was made. So with this introduction of this parliamentary standing committee, we should re-examine the question of continuance of consultative committee. That is the second provision. Third is, remember, for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the quorum is 10%. The quorum is 10%. And for committee, it is 1/3. It is 1/3. If the session is there, during the session period, you cannot hold the committee meetings because members cannot come. They have got their own important issues in the session in the parliament. And during the recess period, it is not possible because members will rush to the constituency where their bread is buttered. So they are interested to satisfy their constituency and they are worried about coming back to the post. So their time for devoting parliamentary standing committee is not possible when they are during the recess period. No, some value, something should be found out. Some via media should be found out. Fourthly, each committee is competent to constitute a subcommittee. And each subcommittee means, again, the meeting place, meeting rooms, stenography assistants, hospitality expenses, and study tour, etc. Again, draining the exchequer. So now, what is the outcome? The outcome is very little. At least majority cases, I have already told you that the recommendations are only recommendatory, not mandatory. It is very difficult for the department to change the allocation after the receipt of standing committee recommendation because there is no time. There was no time. So naturally, in most of the cases, it is for the future reference. And of course, no doubt, there is a previous speaker has introduced what is known as half-yearly implementation report in respect of parliamentary standing committee recommendations. But that is also, they are also only, the report is only status quo reports. There is no concrete improvement. Something is to be done for strengthening the functioning of the standing committee procedures. With this, we will end. We will take up cut motions in the next class. Thank you very much.